Well, it's martini time again on this beautiful Friday. I think it's Friday. And here in Blackstone, the center of the world, but then you too are at the center of the world. And I wanted to talk about that. How can you be the center? How can I be the center of the world? And how can you be the center of the world? And everyone who's watching this also be the center of the world? The one center without a second. You see, we just can't compute that because think of a wheel. Now, a wheel, let me show you this mandala here. So, I've been writing about this all day pretty much on Facebook, and I write on Eckhart Tolle study group. And I've been working this out, kind of spinning it out today, people working it out, and actually it's been a whole day's progress. That's kind of like the way happens to me. I get an idea in the morning and I keep pulling. It's kind of like this cotton ball. You know, there's seeds in here, and so you just keep pulling something apart till the seeds of insight come out. The seeds of insight come out when you stay with something and keep pulling it apart and keep looking into it and keep tasting it and smelling it and we're just curious. And you stay with it and it begins to reveal what is called revelation. Excuse me. So an idea can, if you stay with it, can be a revelation, can reveal understanding. You get a bigger boat. And so the idea I've been working with today, that I'm going to try to share with you, is the image of a wheel. Now, I don't have a wheel here, so I can just show you this. A friend of mine made this. It's a mandala, but it's a wheel. And this is the hub, the axis. Everything revolves around it. Now, and then you also have the periphery of the wheel, or the rim, the periphery. Now we're trying to use this as a metaphor, or a lever, or an image, to grasp how our consciousness works. That's what's important. If I can understand how my consciousness, my mind works, I'm a victim of it. I don't know what it's doing. It's like being in a computer and not knowing how it's working, and it's just doing stuff. Like when you get a virus. It just starts doing something, and you aren't in control of it. It's really interesting when you get hooked up with tech support, and you give them power over your computer, and they're moving your mouse around, and you're sitting there. Or, and I haven't had this experience, but I imagine it will be like that, when you sit in a driverless car, and the car's driving you. Isn't that interesting? This is, in sports, is called being in the zone. When you're in the zone, like if you're a basketball player, and you suddenly go into that transcendental place where you can't do anything wrong, and everybody's just doing the 3 shots, bam, 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 and the other team is just out of step, you're in the zone. The game is doing you. Masters at anything reach that point where what they are master of does them. The poem writes itself. The piano, the song plays itself. The act plays itself. And you find yourself being done by your art or sport. Or even in warfare. You get into a zone where you are just being done by the action. You're not really thinking about should I run there or there. You're just doing shit. You know what I mean? So in the zone is a good thing, you see. So we're trying to understand. I forgot what we're trying to understand. Okay, we're trying to get a metaphor or a wheel to understand what's going on. why there's this suddenly shift. There's one thing, I have to do everything. I've got to do everything. And then suddenly something can happen, not very often, but it does. It can happen where you feel you're being done by the event. When anything like 9/11 or you're in an accident or in a terror situation or a shooting or any kind of situation that is unexpected and out of control, you have this isn't happening. What's happening? People are just doing stuff, you see. Nobody's in control, but somebody's in control. You're in control, but you don't feel like you're doing it. Even sex can give you this experience. See. Anyway, so we're trying to look at the difference in a shift in consciousness. Another good experience, we all relate to this. We're trying to get an idea of how there's two poles to consciousness. There are two centers in consciousness. One of them is the conditioned consciousness, which we all run around here in, which I do. I'm here. I'm Ed Connolly, and my wife calls me, and I go in there, and we know each other. Neither one of us has Alzheimer's. And so we have a history and a behavior pattern and an expectation. If I do this, she's going to do that. If she does that, I'm going to do this. And the little games we play, and this is all controlled. But then once in a while you move into something where the situation is doing you, and whoa, it's just totally new. It opens up. The situation opens up. So you're not in control of it. And yet it's not chaos. The situation is doing you. So another good example of this, to try to draw the different situations, is go to a movie, right? So now the movie, you go in there in your personality. You sit down and you talk, and then you look around and you look at your watch and how long is it going to be, and wonder if I did I leave the iron on, and all that. That's your personality. That's your personal world. Then the lights go off, the screen comes down, and you give up that center. And now you are in the movie. And you've given up your personality center, and you have surrendered to the movie. It's called suspension of disbelief. In other words, the movie will not work unless you suspend your personality. The movie will not work unless you give up looking at your watch and wondering how long the movie's going to go. And a good example of that is you get into the movie, and you're in the movie, and somebody punches you and says, "Do you have any more popcorn?" And suddenly they snatch you back into your personality, and you say, "Well, you get your own pop. I'm watching the movie. Get away." You're irritated. You go back, and you want to get back into it. You want to lose that center. Well, what is that center we want to lose? That personality. Why do you go to a movie? Take a little vacation from your personality. Now, on this wheel, where does that personality live? The personality lives on the periphery. So this is the me out here. And what is the me? For instance, now, if you're listening to me, you're on here, but who is in the center? Well, I'm in the center because you're looking at me. So I'm an it here. You're an I out here. I, it. Now, while you're sitting here now, look at your mouse. If you're sitting at a computer, look at the mouse. Now the mouse is the center. Now look at the computer itself. Oh, now the computer's now look at the light next to the computer. Now that's see? So this center keeps changing it, but I always sit out here, outside of what I'm looking at. Outside, I'm on the I, and this is the it, and this is our normal consciousness. It's called I-it consciousness. But I am out here as a viewpoint, looking in on whatever I perceive to look at. Could be the mouse, the dog, the cat, whatever grabs my attention is going to be here. So this it here is the center of the world when I'm out here looking at it. And this is kind of like a flashlight. I can shine it around, and I can look at this and look at that and look at that. And so it keeps moving around. But it's always here. I'm always out here. Now this is a feeling of being outside of your own experience. You're always But who is this I out here? Who is it that is looking at it, you see? You can't find it. It doesn't exist because it's a viewpoint. I talked about this the other day. To go to a river. Now the river is life, is being. And if you jump in the river, you flow with life. The river is doing you. You're in the zone. You're in the zone and you're light and you're dancing with life. It's kind of like, that's why we love dancing. You dance with a partner and you and the partner are one in the music. You flow with the music. And then eventually you might get to be like Fred and Ginger Rogers. They are the music. They are not doing the music is doing them, and they're in perfect sync with each other. Of course they practice, but I mean the visual experience of it, and the joy they feel. Whenever we feel that joy all the time when we get something just right. You see. So this feeling of being separate from your experience is the feeling of the I, me, outside of the it's, I, it. And this is the scientific paradigm. This is what makes science work. The scientist looks at it. So whatever the scientist studies, it's it, and he's out here, but he never studies himself. The scientist is never it, because you can't find yourself as an it when you're out here. Everything's an it except the perceiver. Except this I here. You see, so it's a viewpoint. And this viewpoint was created in the Western culture after the Middle Ages. That's what the scientific method did. It created a viewpoint outside of nature so you could fix it. That's why science doesn't need God. Because before science, you had to ask God to fix something. God was outside of creation, so he could fix it, like the startup disk can fix your computer. You want to fix the computer, you got to start it up on another disk. You got to start it up on God, then God can fix it. But science came along and says, whoa, we don't need that. We can, by putting my viewpoint outside of nature, I can look at nature and fix it. I can fix this computer from the viewpoint of out here. But this only works in a mechanistic world. It fixes machines, but it can't fix you. You see, because you can't work on yourself. You can't make yourself into an it because your I is always outside of it. So it doesn't work when we try to work with our life, you see. We need a different paradigm. We need a different map, you see. And that's what's going on in our culture today, is that the scientific method, while it makes skyscrapers and robots and all that, it doesn't fix me. And if I go to a therapist, that's going to a scientist who's going to look at me like an it and try to fix me from outside. Or get some drugs. Medicate the thing. Manage it. Manage your stress. And Buddha comes along and says, this teaching is the cessation of stress. This is the end of stress. This is the end of the I being outside of yourself. So there is a shift in center here. Not that we want to get rid of the I and it, because you need that to go catch a bus and make something. We call that the ego out here, but I don't want to get into that. It's the viewpoint of the I versus the it. And there's nothing wrong with that because that's what our society works on. Everybody is an it. Everybody's an it running around there. But when I consider myself to be an it, that's when I am out here as an I, and I put myself in here, and now I'm divided against myself. Now I am here, and I am here, and now that creates a neurosis. Because I'm divided against myself. It's kind of like the hall of mirrors. If you put two mirrors up there, and they go wow, 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 wow to infinity. Put a mic in front of an amplifier, wow, 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 wow. You put an I out here and an it and me here, that is a mic and a amplifier. It's going wow, 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 wow. Each one is trying to get the other. Each one is trying to restore the original me through dividing me into an I and an it, you see. So if the it is my, all right, I'm irritated at my neighbor. That's an it. I'm here. I see that irritation, and I say, I have an irritation. I have an it. You see, it's like a fill in the blank. So I have an it, and then you can fill in the blank. It's anger, the guilt, whatever the it is, it's here. But I am here. The viewpoint and the it, you see. Now that's two. I and it. What I really want to be healed is to be one. But I'm two. And so the more I try to fix this, I create a feedback loop. Wow, 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 wow. And then I got to go, and then I have a panic attack, nervous breakdown, or suicide. I can't stop the amplifier. Wow, 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 wow. You see, medication, alcoholism, drug addiction, opiate addiction. A mass shooter, what is he? He's somebody who couldn't stop the feedback loop, so he just shot everybody. It ends that way if you can't stop it. So, we're trying to get a bigger boat here. We're trying to get a bigger map. So we'll pick this up tomorrow. So tune in. But the point we're trying to make here, I want to get you the idea, the sense of the division in the self when I make myself into an it and then try to fix it. It's like the computer trying to fix itself, and it can't do it, you see. Because this is a viewpoint. This is a mental process having a mental process. So you have two mental processes having a conflict. The same mind divided, trying to become whole through division. And it creates anxiety, a feedback loop that magnifies itself, like wow, 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 you know. And this is the state of our modern mind now, because this particular method, scientific method, this viewpoint, not science, but the viewpoint from the outside has reached this limitation. It's destroying the earth. We've gotten outside of the earth, so the planet, so we think we can just use it up because I'm not really on the earth. I'm a viewpoint. I'm Yahweh, outside of creation. I can do anything I want to it because I'm not really here. I'm outside of reality. You see? And that's the illusion of Maya, that I'm outside of myself. I'm not outside of myself, but I believe it. So let's tune in for the rest of the story tomorrow, okay?